Welcome to the Weekly Roar, coming live from the Lion's Den, helping new managers become great leaders and awesome bosses. And now, here's your host, Greg Storch.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Lion's Den. This is the Weekly Roar. Today, we're continuing the series called Effective Thinking, Your Pathway to Success. I'm going to talk about another skill that we can develop to help us become more effective thinkers. Now, this one's about keeping the main thing the main thing. You're going to hear exactly what I mean by that in just a second. But first, I'm Greg Storch. I'm the owner of Lion Enterprise, a leadership development and coaching business, and I'm the founder of a worldwide bartered coaching program called The Helping Hand. I'm a certified professional leadership coach and a certified leadership speaker and trainer. Now, last week, we came together in the Lion's Den as I spoke about the importance for leaders to think in terms of the big picture. I shared some of the characteristics that big picture thinkers share, and I also gave you a few tips on how you can develop the skill of thinking big. Hopefully, you spent some time assessing where you sit on a scale of 1 to 10 as far as your ability to think in terms of the big picture. Once you do that little exercise, think about what actions that you need to take that are going to help move you from where you rated yourself last week to that next number on your rating scale. If you aren't sure what actions you might need to take, I can help coach you through it. If you aren't sure what coaching is like, you can book a free 30-minute discovery session with me to find out. Think of it as test driving a new car. And I'm going to put the link to my scheduler right here below. You can get to me, book a 30-minute session. It's free. Let's talk about how coaching can work for you, help you get through these and answer these questions, and get you from where you are now to where you want to be. Now, if you were not able to join us last Wednesday, or if you just want to catch up or watch that session over again, all you have to do is head over to my website at www.lion-enterprise.com and click on the Lion's Pride Library, where you'll find video number 113 for last week. Hey, and while you're in the Lion's Pride Library, I invite you to just stick around and check it out. It's a free resource, and it's a great way for you to get more of the roar. Okay, so what do you say we begin the new series? And today's episode is called Remove the Mental Clutter. I don't know about you, but if you're like me, you might get easily distracted. I know that working from home now really requires an extra effort not to get distracted so I can stay focused on the things that I need to get done. As a matter of fact, I sat down about 30 minutes ago to begin this lesson, and I'm just getting started because I got distracted by listening to a podcast. So here I am getting ready to tell you about the importance of getting focused. Well, I want to speak about the importance of having focus in your thinking, because that's another skill that we have to develop in order to become effective thinkers. Winston Churchill said, "You will never reach your destination if you stop and throw stones at every dog that barks." I love that, because we all can relate to those barking dogs, right? Those barking dogs are distracting us from staying focused on our journey. When we have the ability to remove the mental clutter from our minds and begin to think clearly, we become much more effective. Now, if you're wondering why you need to gain more clarity in your thinking, let me share some of the benefits that you can gain from it. And maybe these will answer the questions of Why? So, first of all, when we focus our thinking, we accelerate the results we're getting in just about anything. Any goal you have, if you become focused in your thinking, you're going to give yourself the best chance possible of achieving that goal. What happens is that when we become focused, we become a laser beam on whatever it is we're trying to achieve. We're not distracted. See, lasers harness energy. They're very focused beams of light. They have the ability to stay focused for a very large distance. And that's why they're so powerful. Now, regardless of what we're working on, a new skill, solving a problem, creating a process, whatever it is, focused thinking will take you straight to the solution and it'll skip all the distractions. So the second thing is that when we become more focused in our thinking, we give our ideas the best chance to develop and mature. See, when we brainstorm to create ideas, we're generally approaching things in a very broad pattern of thinking. We're just throwing out all kinds of ideas, right? But in order to develop and mature the ideas, we have to be more selective in our thinking. And that's the difference between a good idea and a great idea. See, focused thinking really gives our ideas the time they need to grow and develop. It's the incubator for our ideas. When we make that shift from expansive to narrow thinking, we buy ourselves more time to develop our thoughts and ideas. It's that little extra baking time we need. Now, another thing is that focused thinking brings clarity to what we're really trying to achieve. We have to clearly see what our end state truly is if we're going to hit the target. Focused thinking helps us to do that. One of my favorite carnival games is the one where you shoot the water pistol at that little circle and it either moves a car down a racetrack or it fills a balloon up with air. I was always really good at that game, and it had a lot to do with my focused thinking. It can be very easy at that game to get distracted by the competitor that's sitting on both sides of you, right? They always wait till there's a whole row of people with squirt guns waiting to go. We get distracted by them and we're watching their car move down the track or their balloon fill up with air, and we lose focus on our own. And that was the trick. The trick was to focus on my water gun and making sure that stream of water, as soon as it left the pistol, was hitting that target and staying on the target consistently. So I would focus on that gun and I would be watching that stream of water. And as soon as it would start to squirt, I was making my adjustments and I was staying focused, and that stream of water was just hitting it. So by doing that, every time I was able to focus my thinking on my own target, when that bell rang, I was always the winner. So focused thinking can really bring clarity to our targets, both figuratively and literally. And one of the last benefits that I wanted to mention today to having focused thinking is that it's one of the main ingredients needed to make it to the next level. Focus does that for us, regardless of what goals we set. In order to reach them, we have to have focus. Bill Gates told us that only through focus can we do world-class things, no matter how capable we are. That's pretty powerful. So it might be obvious to you that not everything in life requires focused thinking, right? As a matter of fact, we have to be selective about where we're going to devote that focused thinking time. If you aren't really sure what areas require you to focus your thinking, well, here's a few things to consider that might help you figure that out. So, we know a few reasons why focused thinking is important to us and why we should learn to develop that skill. But now we're faced with figuring out where we need to focus our thinking, since we can't do it for everything. When trying to determine where to become more selective with your focused thinking, you have to begin with knowing your priorities. And if you aren't sure what your priorities are, you can determine your priorities by first thinking in terms of your strengths. What are the things that make the best use of your skills and natural talents? You could also focus on those things that will result in the biggest return. Do what you love to do and what you're good at. At the end of the day, give your attention to those things that are going to provide a return on your investment, the things that actually bear fruit as a result of the time that you've invested to focus your thinking on them. Think into those things, and that will help you begin to develop the list of priorities. And then that brings me to the second thing. Now, this requires a little bit more self-awareness. You'll need to know what skills and talents that you have. Sometimes that's easier said than done. If you find yourself in a position where you aren't sure what skills and talents that you have, then there are a few things that you can do to uncover them. Personality assessments are one way to help, but you could also speak with friends and family members to see what they think or see as your strengths. And another great way is to spend some time reflecting on some past successes. Past successes can be great indicators of hidden skills and talents that you just aren't aware of. If you're going to focus your thinking in your areas of strength, you have to know what they are. And then the last point I want to mention here to help you identify where you should spend your time focusing your thinking is on your dream. People who achieve big things, they have big dreams. You have to know what your dream is. If you don't know what it is, focused thinking can help you identify it. So if you want to develop a list of things where you can focus your thinking and just aren't sure where to do that, remember, you can't do it for everything. So think about your priorities, your gifts and talents, and your dreams. Use those as a start to dedicate your time to focus your thinking on those areas and only those areas. Remember, not everything requires you to think about it with focus. All right, so now you know why you should develop the skill of focused thinking, and you can at least start to figure out where to focus your thinking. So the next thing that you need to do is learn how to become better at focusing your thinking on the areas that you've just identified. One of my favorite sayings lately, it's actually kind of become a mantra, if you will, is starve your distractions, feed your focus. Distraction is one of the sure things that's going to keep you from successfully focusing your thinking. You have to work hard at removing distractions. One of the ways you could do that is by maintaining the discipline of practicing your priorities that we just identified. Do the first things first. You're probably like, I don't even know what that is. What are the first things? The first things first are those things that give the greatest return. So when you look at your to-do list and see a ton of things on there, you're going to get distracted by trying to do maybe the easy things first or all of the hard things first. Forget that. Do the first things first. And those are the things that are going to give you your highest rate of return for the time you've spent doing them. Interruptions can be distractions as well. So you can also isolate yourself from interruptions. Go to a place where you're not going to be interrupted. Maybe that's a specific place inside your house, or maybe it's away from your house. Maybe that's blocking off time on your schedule that you can devote to nothing but thinking. Wherever you are, be there. Now, the second thing you can do to become better focused on your thinking is to make time for it. In my micro training series that I did before we jumped into all these different skills, I spoke about identifying your thinking place. Once you have that place to think, you need to give yourself the time to think. You have to devote time to focusing on one thing at a time, and sometimes that one thing is focused thinking. There was a Stanford University study back in 2009 that found that heavy multitaskers were actually less mentally organized. They struggled at switching from one task to another, and they had a hard time differentiating relevant from irrelevant details. Man, that's a killer. And since that study 11 years ago, even more research has been done, and it supports the idea that multitasking may not be the best way to get as many tasks as possible done throughout the day. It comes down to our ability to focus. We're most effective when we focus our attention on one thing at a time. So when you hear people saying, I'm multitasking, don't think too highly of them. When does your best thinking occur? Is it in the morning? Maybe it's in the afternoon. Maybe it's in the middle of the night. For some strange reason, mine tends to come in the later hours of the night. Whenever that is for you, carve out space to dedicate your time to doing just one thing: focused thinking. Another way that we can stay focused is to keep the things you need to focus on in front of you. And if they slip back in priority, shuffle them back to the front again to keep them in plain sight. Now, you can get help with this by asking someone to remind you of these things. Maybe your spouse, your children, or a friend or coworker. You can also physically leave reminders right in front of you of that thing in plain sight, so it serves as a constant reminder. Now, I use colored Post-it notes stuck along the bottom of my monitor right here. Look, here's one. Book it, Dano. This is a reminder that I need to be using my calendar all the time because I was not doing great at it. These Post-it notes sit there all the time, and I can't help but see all of them every day. And I've developed the habit of reading through them. They're all the way across the bottom of my monitor. And sometimes I'll get to one and I'll think, oh yeah, I need to do that. So keeping them in front of you will serve as a constant reminder to keep them as a priority. Okay, I think most of you, if not all of you, will be able to relate to this one as a way of maintaining focus, and that's to set clear objectives. That's right, I'm talking about setting goals. But remember something here. Goals, they really help us focus on the direction we're traveling. So try to avoid focusing on them as being a final destination. That's one of the reasons a lot of people recommend writing goals down. When they get written down, it helps us to focus on them much better. Unwritten goals are always going to lack the focus required to achieve them. So setting goals is another way that we can maintain focus. So there's a few suggestions to help you stay focused. First, remember to remove the distractions and do the first things first. Second, set aside time for focused thinking. We're actually less productive when we try to do too many things at the same time. Third, keep items of focus in plain sight. I use different color Post-it notes at the bottom of my monitor that I see every day. And then the fourth thing was to remember to set goals. Goals help us stay focused by giving us clear objectives. That's the purpose of setting goals, is to begin with, to focus our attention and provide direction. So hopefully I was able to convey to you today why we should develop our skill of focused thinking on our journey to becoming more effective thinkers. Focused thinking removes the distractions and mental clutter so that we can concentrate on issues and think with clarity. All right, everyone, there you have it. There's the second skill that you can assess to improve and become a more effective thinker. So for your assessment on how well you can engage in focused thinking, just ask yourself this simple question. What actions am I taking to remove distractions and mental clutter so I can concentrate with clarity on the real issue? Where are you with this one on a scale from 1 to 10? And what do you need to do to move one more number closer to 10 from where you are now? Next week, I'm going to talk about how we can increase our ability to think more creatively and some of the reasons why we'd want to do that. This is really a fun skill, and I look forward to speaking about the joy it can bring when we develop this skill for effective thinking. Now, if you want to hear more about creative thinking, then just come on back to the Lion's Den and tune into the Weekly Roar next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. All right, thanks everybody for supporting me today and watching the Weekly Roar. I really appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week. Until we meet again, remember, be powerful, but stay poised just like a lion. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for watching the Weekly Roar live event at lionenterprise.com. If you enjoyed this video, please tell others to join us each week here in the Lion's Den. Thanks again, and see you next week.